Intro. You good?
Fuck it.
We have a 10-second runoff.
Welcome back to the 10-second runoff powered by Culture Media with your host, Joe Mitchell, producer, Magic Mikey Shiaza.
What's
There
good?
he is. There he is. We do have a little different vibe on the stream today. We got, our lower thirds gone because we're going to start using an AI system for clips because we got a lot of shows that we're trying to, take advantage of. So got to get rid of that, new overlay on the stream. That's not insanely important. But,
I like it though.
Yeah, I like it.
You designed it, and I like it.
It's
Came out really good.
it's just, there's nothing going on really. We just throw some logos in the corners, call it a day.
Hey, that's all you need.
Yeah. But one of the logos that you see on there, SeatGeek, in the bottom left-hand corner, you go to SeatGeek right now. You use code 10-second runoff. That's 10SE, right? SEATGEEK. Wow, I struggled through that.
I thought you were trying to spell us out for a second.
And I did it wrong, right? You go to SeatGeek, do 10-second runoff, 10SECONDRUNOFF. Wow, I got to get it together.
Yeah.
Use that code for $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. Get tickets to the next game. Get tickets to games down the road. Hey, if your team's got a shot at the playoffs, save yourself $20. Go get the tickets. Let's see if we can recover for the rest of the show.
We're off to a rough start there.
It's
but
been
we're good.
dude.
We're good. Let's keep
Hey,
it rolling.
it's been a great weekend, but it's been a rough weekend. You know what I'm saying?
It's been a really good weekend for this guy Joe Mitchell over here. He
Hold on.
oh,
We'll get there whenever we get to
we'll
that
get there
game.
when we get there. We're
Yeah.
not there yet.
We're not there yet.
All right, stay tuned because it's big.
The new AP Top 25 is out. Did you see anything that you were, did you feel any type of way about the new rankings?
Not necessarily. I mean, I felt like they were good. Let me see if I can pull it up right here.
Georgia remains 1. Michigan's at 2.
Yeah.
Ohio State's 3. Florida State 4. Washington jumps up to 5. I like seeing Washington in the top 5 there. Still have 2 Big Ten East teams in the top 3 with Michigan and Ohio State. I don't see that changing. I would like to see – I think Penn State's worthy of being a top 5 team right now. That's the only thing that I would maybe change, but I don't know who I would drop out, just to be honest with you. I might put Penn State above Ohio State as it sits, but who knows. 6 through 10, Oklahoma, Penn State, Texas, Oregon, North Carolina. I'm not mad at North Carolina being number 10. I think they deserve to be there in terms of AP rankings, but I don't think they're the 10th best team in football. I think there's, if we were power rating them, I'd have them somewhere between 15 and 20, to be honest. I just don't think they're a top 10 team in football, but I do think they deserve to be ranked there currently, if that makes sense. In terms of a ranking system,
Ranking versus
record
rating.
and all that matters, then yeah. I'm with you. All right. 11 through 15, Alabama at 11, Oregon State at 12, Ole Miss 13, Utah 14, Notre Dame 15. Again, not going to argue too much because it is a ranking system. I hate ranking systems. I know they're necessary, in terms of building a playoff system. But, I think power ratings are pretty much all that matters in football. In terms of deciding which teams are best in numerical order, I don't think Alabama necessarily deserves to be at 11 right now, but it is what it is. I think Ole Miss may deserve to be a little bit higher, to be honest with you, but we'll see. Let's see.
16.
Yeah, 16. We have Duke, Tennessee at 17, USC at 18. They dropped a lot. They dropped 8 spots. LSU at 19, Missouri at 20. Missouri jumped a lot. Missouri wasn't ranked last week. They jumped all the way back up to 20. USC dropped to 18. Do we have any thoughts there?
Not really. I mean, I feel like at this point of the year, when you get to the top 25, you kind of know what to expect. I mean, when you get to 20 through 25, then I feel like those will shuffle in and out as they go. But for the most part, I feel like you look at the top 25 and you kind of, at this point, you kind of agree with it. You might have a little bit that you would change, but for the most part, I feel like this is pretty accurate.
What I do like is I love that, and I think they could both be a little bit higher, to be honest with you, than 18 and 19. But at 18 and 19 is USC and LSU, and I think LSU being one tick below USC right now makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I'd say they're very similar teams. Both have really, really high-powered offenses. Defenses struggle. But statistically, LSU's defense is worse than USC's. So I'm not mad at them being wherever you want to put them, whether it's right inside the top 15 or right inside the top 20. I'm not mad at having LSU one tick below USC. I think that's pretty accurate.
I agree.
Okay, 21 Louisville, 22 Air Force, 23 Tulane, 24 Iowa, 25 UCLA. A lot of this stayed the same. Louisville dropped 7 spots down to 21 after they lost to Pitt. We'll get there. And then UCLA dropped 7 spots to 25 after they lost to Oregon State. Again, we'll get there. I don't have too much to argue about with the AP poll other than I don't think it needs to exist.
But it does.
It does.
It does.
I know. But it's just how much do you deserve? The whole argument for the AP poll is there are teams that deserve a shot at the playoff based on their record and this, that, and the other. Okay, but if you're not a top 4 team in college football, I don't think you deserve to be in the playoffs. So I think the AP system creates a scenario where sometimes the top 4 aren't the best 4. A lot of times that's what happens.
We saw it last year.
And that drives me insane. But whatever. All right, let's move on to the games. Georgia at Vandy. Georgia was a 31.5-point favorite. Didn't come close to covering. They won 37-20. Honestly, they dominated the game on the stat sheet. Carson Beck threw for 261 and a touchdown. He did throw an interception, but 60 more yards than Vandy threw for. Georgia rushed for 291 yards to Vandy's 18 rushing yards. So, I mean, dominant on the stat sheet. Yeah. But they just let Vandy hang around a little bit. And one key point here that Georgia absolutely has to fix before they're going to play a team like Ole Miss or likely whoever they're going to play in the SEC championship game is they can't put the ball on the turf 3 times. They did that against Vandy. They did it against Auburn a couple weeks ago. You have to take better care of the football. It's not going to cut it against teams that have high-powered offenses like an Ole Miss, like an LSU. If those are the teams that you're going to face. You're for sure going to face Ole Miss. LSU's offense is playing good enough to potentially get to the SEC championship. But, we'll see. I think Georgia matches up really well against Alabama as it sits because they're a run-first team right now, and that's Georgia's defense is just so dominant in the run game. So depending on who they get as the season progresses, you got to stop putting the ball on the turf. But right now they're okay. They're still in my top 2. Spoiler. I lie. They're not in my top 2. Spoiler part 2.
Ooh, yeah. Interesting.
All right. Michigan versus Indiana. Michigan gets it done again, dominant fashion. They win 52-7 over Indiana. Indiana's bad at football. Michigan's really good at football. Michigan is in my top 2. We stayed away from the line here, but we both expected Michigan to cover. They did it. I've got nothing else to say on this game.
Yeah, dominance.
Yeah. Ohio State at Purdue. Ohio State 19.5-point favorite. They win 41-7. Really needed to see this performance out of them. Needed to see them put together a full game and go get it done like this. Putting up 41 points, keeping an opponent below 10 points, impressive. A conference opponent at that. I know Purdue's not great. They're essentially trying to, they're trying to not be last in the Big Ten West, which is that's hard to do, man. That's hard to be last in the Big Ten West. It's not a great division. But Ohio State got it done nonetheless. Florida State got Syracuse at home. Florida State wins this one 41-3. They're the 4th-ranked team in the country. Big win for them. You have anything on this one?
Not really. No. I mean, let me see if I can pull up the box score here, but I didn't take a look at any of the stats before, but it really looks like they just dominated. so I don't really have too much to say on that.
All right, thanks, Mikey.
And I'm a great help. I know.
No, yeah, it was 41-3. Jordan Travis threw 284 yards. He did only have one touchdown. They held Syracuse to 137 passing yards. They held them to 124 rushing yards. Florida State ran for 191 yards. And the same thing, same issue I had with Georgia. Florida State put the ball on the turf 3 times. They didn't lose any of them though. So that doesn't make it a whole lot better because you still don't want to be fumbling 3 times against better teams. You probably lose some of those. But nonetheless, they kept the ball. They didn't turn it over. Got to stop doing that. On the other hand, they forced 2 fumbles from Syracuse, got one of them. That's big. The defense going out there and forcing turnovers is huge, especially if the offense is trying to give the ball away. Nonetheless, 41 points scored. They're looking more and more like they're solidifying themselves as a top 4 team in the country. Everything outside of the fumbles offensively leads me to believe that this Florida State team can go win the ACC. Duke is starting to seem like a worthy opponent. Miami, they can't do what they did last week if they're going to be in the mix, and especially after what happened this weekend with North Carolina. But North Carolina is starting to look worthy too. So we'll see how that plays out. Right now, Florida State's still my favorite. They were my favorite to win the ACC preseason, and they still are now. Oklahoma was on a bye. Penn State got UMass. Penn State was a 41.5-point favorite. We said that we weren't going to take the spread here because we never touch anything over 30, really. If the spread's larger than 30, we're not taking it. This spread was 41.5. Penn State covered again.
Not only that, but
yeah, they won
63 to nothing.
63 to nothing, bro. They've covered every single game this year. They're perfect against the spread. I think we just take them next week.
Well, if we want them to stay undefeated against the spread, then we won't take them.
We can tease it down.
Then that's not the spread then.
I know. Well, we can buy ourselves some points is what I'm trying to say. They get Ohio State next week. I'm not.
We're not touching that one.
Well, no. I think we can take them plus whatever it is. Let's add 7 to whatever the line is and take them, plus whatever it ends up being. So, and also, we'll talk about that game when we get there in the preview, but I think Penn State can win that game.
I agree. I think that's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah. So, we'll see. Game of the week here. 7 Washington versus 8 Oregon. Washington was a 2.5-point favorite, and they win by 3. Vegas is unbelievable. Washington scored first. Oregon came right down. They scored. They go for 2. So 2 first possession touchdowns. Oregon goes for 2. They get it. Lead changes back and forth. Washington finally gets it to 29-18. Also, by the way, Michael Penix Jr. throws a beautiful ball. He put him on the money all game. Sporadically throughout the game, it looked like he did, like the pressure was getting to him a little bit. And I don't mean like sacks. I mean, it looked like he looked rattled a couple times, which is kind of the first time I've seen that. But he was still putting balls on the money. Odunze was having an amazing day. On the flip side, Bo Nix, amazing day. Troy Franklin, amazing day. It was just really, really impressive, the offense that was being played. All right, I said they lead changes back and forth until Washington got it to 29-18. Oregon stormed back. They get it to 33-29. It's the last time Oregon scores. Washington goes down. They score one more touchdown to get it 36-33. There was a big controversy about whether Dan Lanning should have gone for it on 4th and 1 or not, or just try and pin Washington deep. I think with the days that everybody was having offensively, you got to go for it on that 4th and 1 in the middle of the field. You have a chance to end the game. You need 1 yard to win, essentially. They didn't get it, but I think it's the right call. It was just the wrong outcome. Washington gets the ball back. They go down, score, make it 36-33. Oregon gets one more shot as time expires, miss the field goal. Brutal. That's a brutal way to lose a game, especially when you go and look at the stats of everybody playing. Michael Penix Jr. threw for 302 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. Bo Nix, his counterpart, threw for 337 yards, 2 touchdowns. In the rushing attack, both teams had a rusher over 100 yards. Dylan Johnson had 100 yards and a touchdown. Mar'Keise Irving had 127 yards and a touchdown. Jordan James had a massive run for Oregon. He was like right down inside the 15, where he made first contact at like the 9-yard line, carried 3 guys with him and scored. It was stupid. Receiving, Odunze had 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Polk, 118 yards and a touchdown. Troy Franklin for Oregon, 154 yards and a touchdown. I mean, you're looking at 316 yards receiving for Washington versus 337 yards receiving for Oregon. 2 ridiculously high-powered offenses. I said that I predicted Washington to win a 1-possession game. I didn't expect it to go how it did in terms of the reason Oregon would lose would be on a missed field goal. That's clearly not what I thought would happen. I said Oregon had more ways to win, and if they were going to win, they were going to have to match stat for stat Washington's offense, and they did that. What I did not anticipate was Washington playing as well defensively as they did. And look, I know Oregon's offense put up a crazy stat line, and it, if you're just looking at the box score, you may say, Washington's defense didn't play a great game. In crucial moments, they absolutely did. They got the turnovers they needed when it was necessary. They got the stop on 4th and 1 when they needed it. And they were able to get a lot of pressure, get Penix out of the pocket. So I want to give them their props too there. That was something I did not anticipate, and they played great.
So, yeah, like you were saying, Oregon went 0 for 3 on 4th down.
Yeah.
So that's a huge stat right there for the Washington defense.
Yeah, no doubt. Big props there. We very well may see a rematch of this game. As simple as that.
I think we will.
Look, I thought Washington State was somebody that might be in the mix to try and fight their way into the Pac-12 championship, but we'll get to their game. They just lost to Arizona, and they didn't just lose to Arizona. They got the piss beaten out of them by Arizona. I think we're starting to look at I was going to say UCLA could be somewhere in the mix there, but they just lost to Oregon State. Like, the Pac-12 is so weird this year. USC was obviously a big favorite to go win that. They just lost to Notre Dame, which I'll get to. It's starting to look more and more like we're going to see this Washington-Oregon game again in the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah.
We'll put a hold on that and talk about USC and Notre Dame. Notre Dame wins this one 48-20. Notre Dame was the favorite. They were a 2.5-point favorite. I took Notre Dame preseason, but I switched up last week. I said I think USC was going to win because Notre Dame was coming off a series of really tough matchups. That simply wasn't the case, and the story of this game was Notre Dame's front 7. The way they were able to get to Caleb Williams early and often in that first half just forced bad decisions. They forced him to throw balls that he was not ready to throw. Couple times it was as he was being hit, ball came out, and then, pick happened or tip, pick, all that stuff. And then there was a couple where he just made bad decisions and threw it into double coverage or threw it to a receiver who was clearly being undercut and got picked off. Great game for that front 7 of Notre Dame. Great game for the secondary. Really, really, really impressive for Notre Dame. If you look at the stats, Caleb Williams was held under 200 yards passing. He threw 1 touchdown to 3 picks, all 3 picks coming in the first half. Sam Hartman didn't have an insanely impressive day. He threw for 126 yards, but 2 touchdowns, and key stat, no picks. You cannot give USC any extra possessions, especially when they're giving possessions away to you. Also, on the man, I don't know why this happens every week.
You're getting choked up.
I know, man. I don't know what the deal is. On the ground, Notre Dame rushed for 125 yards. Aldrich Estime had 95 of them, 2 touchdowns. USC only had 103 yards rushing. Honestly, man, just statistically, there was a lot less offense than I expected to see across the board. Great day defensively for Notre Dame, though. Great day defensively for Notre Dame. Their defense put them in scenarios with a short field. So a lot of the offensive production doesn't translate to the stat sheet when you have such a short field to work with so often. So big props to Notre Dame. This is a defensive win in my opinion. Also a big day on the ground. USC's run defense just has no answer for anybody, let alone Notre Dame's. Moving on. Number 11, Alabama versus Arkansas. Alabama was a 20.5-point favorite here. Alabama wins at 24-21, but it was a slow start for both teams. After the first quarter, Alabama was up 7-6. Now, Alabama did kind of open it up there in the second quarter before half. They go into half 21-6. Arkansas slowly mounts a comeback. Going into the fourth quarter, it's 24-13. And then Arkansas puts up 8 points in the fourth to get it down, to get it to 24-21 with a chance to win it there. Again, I thought the 20.5-point spread was crazy. I did think Alabama would win by one possession. Now, granted, I did say anywhere from 3 to 10. I was leaning more towards a touchdown win. I didn't expect it to get this close that late, but it did. Jalen Milroe had 238 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks, but he was less than 50% passing. Not all of it is his fault. There was too many balls that hit hands of Alabama receivers that ended up on the turf. Now, some of it was his fault. While that is true, there's too many drops. There's also too many balls hitting the turf before they get to the receivers. So, you kind of got a mixed bag there. You need better play from your receivers. You need better play from your quarterback as well if you're going to go win that division. Rushing the ball, Alabama rushed for 177 yards. Jace McClellan was kind of your bell cow there with 83 yards on the ground. Roydell Williams had 68 of those. And that was kind of it. It was just Arkansas just refused to quit. They're a gritty team who now has 5 consecutive losses, all by one possession. So
that's what I was just thinking is, talk about Arizona, and obviously they're holding all these teams to low-scoring games, and they still only have 2 wins.
Yeah.
That's just brutal for them. They're playing all these great games against these great teams, and they have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, so Arkansas lost to BYU, lost out by 7, lost to LSU by 3, lost to Texas A&M by 12. So that one's 2 possessions. But then Ole Miss by 7, 1 possession. Bama by 3, 1 possession. So they're in the game for all of those. Just can't find a way to win. They just can't find a way to win tough games. I do think they break this losing streak next week against Mississippi State, but we'll get there. It's so tough because Arkansas is – I don't think they're certainly not more talented than LSU, A&M, Ole Miss, or Arkansas, but they're right there in all those games with chances to win at least 3 of them. So – And even BYU went to overtime. So, they had chances. Of their 5 losses, they had chances to win 4 of them and couldn't get it done in any of them. That's really tricky because you don't pay a coach to go get you close. You pay a coach to go win the games. I do think Sam Pittman's been a great coach for them, though. I don't know that with anybody else I don't know that. I don't know what coach you're going to go find to take the Arkansas job that's going to do a better job than Sam Pittman's doing right now. That being said, I know that 5 losses in a row is not good enough if you're an Arkansas fan. So I get it, but I also think that you're right there. You're so close. Don't look at the record. Look at the games, and you're so close. So that's kind of where I'm at with Arkansas. We go to number 12, North Carolina versus 25 Miami. North Carolina is a 3.5-point favorite. They win it by 10. This one was – so Miami now has their 2nd loss in a row. Really shouldn't have lost last week, but they did. And then this one, when you're playing a quarterback like Drake May, who's going to throw for 273 yards and 4 touchdowns, you can't throw 2 picks. That's giving them 2 extra possessions, and that's the difference in the game. Henry Parrish rushed for 73 yards for Miami. But the team only combined for 91 yards. So, you combine Henry Parrish and Donald Chaney's rushing yards, that's more than the team total because Tyler Van Dyke was, he had 6 carries for minus 14 yards. That kills you. It kills you. Especially when you're going to throw 2 picks. So outside of Drake May throwing for 273 yards and 4 touchdowns, Omarion Hampton rushed for 197 yards. This was just a complete offensive clinic. North Carolina was better through and through. Tez Walker had 132 yards receiving. 3 touchdowns. I mean, the NCAA came in I'm not going to say the NCAA came in clutch because the NCAA blows, but allowing him to have eligibility just completely changed this North Carolina team. And it makes you wonder how good this team could have been all year had he been playing. And maybe they would be sitting in a position right now ranked a little bit higher than 12. If maybe some of the games, I know they don't have a loss yet, but maybe if some of those games played differently earlier in the year, they might be sitting in a better position and not have to climb with just 6 more weeks of the regular season to try and earn that top 4 spot. Now they are going to get a shot at Florida State and potentially an ACC championship shot. So we'll see how all that goes. But a great day for Drake May. Ole Miss was on a bye. Louisville at Pitt. Look, Louisville's coming off a big win over Notre Dame, who, again, Notre Dame just got that big win over USC. Didn't make much of a difference because Pitt went into this game and won it 38-21. What do you have on this?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute my mic there. But, now the camera's not on me. But, again, I didn't watch this game, but looking at the box score, I mean, Louisville had 444 total yards to Pitt's 288, and you're still going to lose that game. I mean, I don't know. I know that's a big stat to look at is just total yards, and then with time of possession as well, Louisville had 27 minutes and 17 seconds, and Pitt had 24 and 12. So 24 minutes, 12 seconds.
Yeah.
But I feel like this just comes down to turnovers. I mean, on 4th down, Louisville was 0 for 4 on 4th down. They had 1 fumble loss and 2 interceptions thrown, and that's going to kill you right there.
Yeah, that'll kill you. Pitt's also been, let's see. So Pitt lost the game to North Carolina a couple weeks ago, 41-24. They lost it to Virginia Tech, 38-21. They lost it to West Virginia, 17-6. They lost to Cincinnati, 27-21. So, they were coming off a 4-game losing streak and beat Louisville by 3 possessions. This is not a, hey, let's all give props to Pitt here. Louisville, this is really concerning. You can't have a game as good as you did against Notre Dame, go get that really dominant and impressive win at home, and then drop a game on the road to Pitt like this, especially with the year Pitt's having to, look, Virginia Tech's not good. West Virginia's not good. Cincinnati's not good. Those are 3 losses that really, really hurt. North Carolina we can excuse. North Carolina's a really good team. You put up 24. You gave up 41, unfortunately. But Pitt has 3 losses to not good teams, and they just whooped up on you if you're Louisville. So that's one that you can't let it. This season's over. Yeah, this season's over. Sorry, Louisville. It's done. It's done. 15 Oregon State versus 18 UCLA. Oregon State's a 3.5-point favorite, or was a 3.5-point favorite, and they won it by 12, 36-24. If you're UCLA, it's not panic time. You do have 2 conference losses, but also the entire conference is kind of beating each other up. It sucks to lose the tiebreaker to Oregon State if it were to come to that. The Pac-12 is crazy. It came down to something similar last year, so it's something you got to at least think about. Oregon State only has 1 conference loss. I think the overlying factor here, or the underlying factor here, is Dante Moore's a freshman. Okay, he's been really good for you all year. He only threw for 165 yards, but he made freshman mistakes. 3 picks. You can't have that and go beat a team like Oregon State. DJ Uiagalelei, who was efficient with the ball, 266 yards, 2 touchdowns with that. You can't throw 3 picks and expect to beat a top 15 team. It's not going to happen. Even if you are a top 18 team, even if you are ranked number 18 in the country, it's not going to happen for you.
Those are mistakes you can make in a game against unranked teams. Well, once you get to real opponents like this, then you can't make those mistakes. It's plain and simple.
Especially when you're having as good of a day on the ground as you were. They outrushed Oregon State 287-133 in terms of yardage, and then picks ended those drives. You can't you can't have that. You can't have such a good day on the ground and then have the interception cost you not only a drive but points. If you don't throw 3 picks, this game goes a lot differently. But then again,
he threw 3 picks.
If my aunt. Let's move on. What, bro?
I didn't say anything. Let's move on. Next game.
What
do we got?
Behind the camera.
We got Utah versus Cal.
Yeah, number 16, Utah versus Cal. Utah is 11.5-point favorite. They won at 34-14. Cal's bad. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, they're not good.
No, Cal is simply bad, and
they did outpass though. They had 188 passing yards to Utah's 128.
I mean, is Cam Rising's not playing this year or what?
Where is he? Where is he?
I don't understand what is going on. He was supposed to be.
We've been saying he was supposed to be since week 1. He's supposed to be back. We think he's going to be back. Where are you, Cam?
Well, he's battling injury, right? He tore all kind of.
I know. I'm not being mean to Cam Rising. I swear.
I don't think he's concerned if you are, but
we got beef, Cam.
He tore every ligament in the Rose Bowl. It's a long recovery unless you're Aaron Rodgers, apparently.
Yeah, he was throwing today. He was throwing footballs today.
With no boot.
He was putting pressure on the Achilles that he tore 5 weeks ago. I'm a Jets fan. So
yeah, he's a New Jersey.
Not an NFL podcast, but yeah, show, not podcast. Joga hates me for that.
Well, it'll be on podcast later.
Yeah.
Right now it's
a show.
Yeah, I mean, Utah, they get the win, but they desperately need Cam Rising back immediately yesterday in week 1. They need him right now. If they get Cam Rising back, they're automatically they're all of a sudden, they have a shot. Not to go to like the playoffs or anything, but they have a shot to find themselves in the conference championship. Like the hardest part of your schedule is still ahead of you. Get Cam Rising back, and we could start talking a little bit differently. But as long as we're splitting reps between Bryson Barnes and Nate Johnson, it's not gonna happen. You can't get outpassed by Cal and expect to go out and win the toughest games of your schedule. Duke and NC State. Duke was a 3.5-point favorite. Duke went out and won this one 24-3. Hey, Duke's proven themselves to be a really formidable opponent in the ACC. Duke is. I think right now that conference is between Duke, Florida State, and North Carolina. We'll get to see Duke and Florida State this weekend, so I'm excited to talk about that one and see how that goes. Right now, Duke does have one loss, but it's to Notre Dame. So it's out of conference. It does not affect their road to the conference title. And I'm really excited to see what that ends up looking like. They have the win over Clemson. So this game this week against Florida State is going to be really telling as to what the future of the ACC is going to look like this year. All right, this game shocked me. Washington State versus Arizona. Washington State was an 8.5-point favorite. Arizona won at 44-6. Washington State comes out. They score on the first possession of the game. They decide to go for 2. Don't get it. So they're up 6-0. Arizona outscored them 44-0 the rest of the game. I mean, what?
Talk about dominance. This is dominance. This is just 44 unanswered points is ridiculous.
Redshirt freshman Noah Fafita. I think I'm saying that right. I'm going to struggle with it until
at least now we remember his name and we're not just like, oh, that redshirt freshman from Arizona. That's what we've been referring to him as. But now
this is the third time we've seen him.
I know, but he's a dog.
Yeah, 34 for 43 with 342 yards, no touchdowns passing, but that is unbelievable. 342 yards,
no picks either.
When your counterpart you're playing is Cameron Ward, who is. Honestly, he's a baller. He hasn't been the last couple weeks, but in his career at Washington State, he's been a baller, throwing for a ridiculous amount of yards. Noah Fafita damn near doubled the yards. I mean,
he passed for more yards than Washington State had total.
Yeah, dude. Also, big respect to Arizona's run defense. They give up 35 rushing yards total. So that's fire. I mean, this was a beatdown. As Washington State scored, and as soon as they missed that 2-point conversion, it was like all the life on their team just left. It was out the window. Arizona scored 10 in the first, 10 in the second, 10 in the third, 14 in the fourth, just piled on, never stopped, and ran away with it.
That's consistency right there.
Yeah. Again, 342 yards in the air, 174 on the ground with 5 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that is literally just they took Washington State's soul straight up. Like they took their will to keep playing. Dominant. Washington State, you have to, I don't know what you got to do.
Get it together.
You got to scrub extra in the shower or something. You got to get that loss off you because that was ugly. What? Why'd you stare at me?
Nothing. Next game.
Tennessee versus Texas A&M. Tennessee was a 3-point favorite. I took Texas A&M to win this one. Tennessee wins it 20-13. You also took Texas A&M, right? No, you took Tennessee.
I did.
All right, so tell me about it.
Yeah. Hold on.
I mean, switch the camera. What are we doing?
I got a lot going on here, Joe, all right? I got to worry about the soundboard. I got to worry about the cameras. I got to worry about my computer. At 8%, probably going to die, but it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. Yeah, I mean, this just comes down to, I feel like, the story with most of these games, which is who's going to turn the ball over less. And Texas A&M had 2 interceptions. Tennessee had 1. They were both 0 for 2 on 4th down. But, I mean, that's just what these games have been coming down to, is who's going to turn the ball over less. And when you're playing these, I mean, Texas A&M isn't ranked, but it's still an SEC opponent. Tennessee, who won the game, obviously is a ranked opponent. You can't turn the ball over. You just can't do it. You can't put the ball on turf. You can't give them any extra possessions.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. If you would have told me preseason that the strength of Tennessee's team was going to be their run game, I would have not believed you. Joe Milton was supposed to be this Heisman contending quarterback. He can throw the ball 90 yards, this, that, and the other. He's going to be a baller. He's the next Hendon Hooker. He hasn't been that. And that was kind of the reason that I said I think I was expecting Texas A&M to go win the game. I said if Connor Wegman was your starter at Texas A&M, you'd be the favorite. He wasn't. He's obviously out for the year. Like you said, Max Johnson threw 2 picks, but he outpassed Joe Milton by a significant margin, 120 yards or something like that.
123.
Yeah, so Joe Milton only threw for 100 yards. Rough day. But they rushed the ball for 232 yards. Jaylen Wright had 136 yards. Jabari Small had 42. Joe Milton was able to make up some of the lack of passing with 34 rushing yards of his own. Dylan Sampson had 25 rushes. And they ran the ball 49 times. They handed it off 49 times. Look, if you can't get anything going through the air, I mean that's more than double the amount of times they passed it. They passed it 22 times. That's like, hey, we can't get the pass game going, so we're just going to run it down your throat all game, and that's going to be our answer. And it was their answer, and they were able to win doing that. So I will say that's impressive. Whenever a defense makes you one-dimensional and then that one dimension is enough to go win the game, that's impressive. But again, if Tennessee's going to have a shot against Georgia when it comes down to it, they've got to be able to. They can't just be one-dimensional in that aspect. They gotta find a way for Joe Milton to be able to get the ball to his receivers. Chaz Nimrod was the leading receiver for Tennessee with only 4 receptions and 31 yards. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it for Tennessee. All right. Moving on, number 22, LSU versus Auburn. LSU is 11.5-point favorite. They win this one 48-18. So they did cover. This was one of our locks. We took an alternate over at 55.5. We were solid. That hit. But LSU went down and scored late to cover the over, the original over. I think they were at 58 points total. Mm-hmm. That final touchdown put them over, which I kind of liked. I kind of like to go see teams like Penn State does it. I kind of like to see teams go out and chase the over. Jayden Daniels had another ridiculous performance. 3 touchdowns passing, over 300 yards in the air, 93 yards on the ground, playing like a Heisman right now. To me, the best part of the game, watching LSU and knowing that this has been such a bad defense throughout the year, but a championship-level offense, something has to give defensively if they're going to find themselves in the conversation for the SEC West and potentially the SEC, and it did. Held Auburn to just 154 passing yards, only 139 yards on the ground. Look, Auburn's had a bad passing offense. That's not a shocker to anybody. I think I just expected Auburn to throw for more yards than they typically do because LSU's secondary has been really bad, and they haven't been able to get enough pressure. Well, they got 2 sacks. They were able to bottle up the run game and really, really limited both Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford through the air. So props to that LSU defense. Not willing to say they're good, but much better performance. And LSU's offense is good enough to where if you can give up 18 points and win by 30. So I think that's what it comes down to. Looking at the future of LSU's schedule, where you are going to have a Texas A&M, you are going to have an Alabama, you're going to get Florida. Like, you got to find a way to keep teams. You got to find a way to keep teams under 30 points. If you can keep them under 30 points, then you're in a great position to win with that offense. So we'll see how that plays out. Really impressive win for LSU. I said take LSU money line, take the over, and take Auburn to cover. So I figured it was going to be a one possession, maybe 2 possession game, but single digit. LSU wins by 30. So that was impressive.
So yeah, it was really good. Plus, I was at the game, so that was a lot of fun. I did use our SeatGeek code. I got $20 off my purchase. And Joe, now you said we'll get there when we get there. Now we're here.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Joe participated in a corn dog eating competition this weekend.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Balcony Bengals for hosting it. And not only did he compete, but he won. Here's the man after it happened. There he is. So, Joe, I just want a little post interview from you. How do you feel? How do you feel being the champion of the people?
Look, I feel just like I do every day. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Look, I didn't become a winner after that competition. I'm a winner. That's how this goes, okay? No, look, in all seriousness, shout out to the Balcony Bengals. That was really cool. The whole reason we were there is because at Culture Media, we are located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So one of the shows that we do, hosted by Abby Alonzo, one of our media personalities, she hosts a show called Valley Vision. It's an LSU sports show. So if you are an LSU fan, go check that out. We do game day vlogs for all of LSU's home games. We go out there and we film content for her show. So that's why we were there. Shout out to the Balcony Bengals for that. All right. Moving on to number 23, Kansas at Oklahoma State. Kansas was a 3.5-point favorite. Look, without Jayden Daniels, I figured Oklahoma State was going to go out and win this one. They did. They won at 39-32. Neither one of these look, Oklahoma State has not been great this year. Kansas, the only silver lining for Kansas is if Jayden Daniels is playing, they have a shot. And he wasn't available. He wasn't available, and I said that in the preview that, look, if he's not playing, then it's not going to go well. And that's what we saw. Oklahoma State went and won. Both teams put up in the mid to high 30s. It wasn't great football, just to be honest. So Oklahoma State got the win, but neither of these teams are really all that. That's how I feel. 24, Kentucky versus Missouri. Kentucky was a 2.5-point favorite. Missouri went out and won it 38-21. To me, this is a really big win for Missouri. We saw what Kentucky did to Florida. We also saw how Kentucky struggled against Georgia. So to me, Kentucky's been a really volatile team. And then to see Missouri go out and hang 38 on them, a team that's been good defensively, that's had the good run game. I think the reality is whenever you have a team with a high motor offensively and the ability to go put out a lot of passing yards in a game, this is what you're going to see. I think the teams that are more capable offensively through the air specifically, they just create a pace. It's just they create a pace that the heavy run teams can't keep up with if they're not the first scorer or if they're not great defensively in the secondary like Notre Dame. So Really, really big win for Missouri to get themselves back in the rankings. Again, we saw them jump in at what was it, 20?
20.
Yeah, they jumped in at 20. Kentucky fell out of the rankings, but this is, as it sits, Missouri has one loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Missouri has one loss to LSU, who's just continuing to look better and better. So we may have to start talking about Missouri here shortly. Missouri's going to get a shot at Georgia here before long, and we'll see how that goes. I'm going to obviously still take Georgia in that matchup, but
it'd be crazy if it didn't, though.
Huh?
It'd be crazy if Missouri won that game, though.
I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility. Hey, if you fumble the ball 3 times against Missouri, they're going to turn that into at least 14, 17 points. So we'll see. I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility, but I'm going to take Georgia for now. All right, that's the games. Those are the games that happened this weekend. We did have locks of the week. Arizona was plus 19.5, or our alternate lines. We had Arizona plus 19.5 against Washington State. They freaking won 44-6. Cleared that. We could have took them minus 20 and been fine, and had really good odds. But that was minus 320. So Arizona moves to 6-1 against the spread on the year. What?
5-1.
No, they moved to 6-1. They were 5-1.
Oh, right.
Yeah. LSU versus Auburn, alternate total points at 55.5. That was minus 192. Add that to another game. LSU's been over 5 games in a row. So Oregon plus 9.5 at Washington. That was minus 310. Oregon covered that. They covered our plus 9.5. They were only a 2.5 point dog. Yeah, they were plus 2.5. So for us, they covered. They did not cover the original spread. So they moved to 5-1 against the spread. Our locks hit though. Total odds was plus 163. So that's huge for us. Huge. We're turning a corner.
Hey, the night game at LSU. We thought we were going to be screwed on that one, but
that's why we took the over. If you were betting,
life's too short to bet the under.
Huh?
Life is way too short to bet the under.
That's what I'm talking about, Mikey. That's what I'm talking about. All right, power ratings. Last segment of the show. I have a feeling people aren't going to like this one. I have a lot of movement.
This is an interesting one. This is interesting.
You don't like it?
I like it, but controversial for sure.
Definitely controversial. Definitely controversial. I left Michigan at 1. I got a lot of hate for that last week, that I even had Michigan at 1. But Georgia gave up. Georgia let Vandy hang around, man. They've done it too much. They've put the ball on the turf way too much. They haven't showed me that they can protect the football, and that is scary to me. I think if Michigan and Georgia played right now, Michigan would probably be favored. So that's why I have Michigan at 1. Now, with the way I was talking about that, you would assume I have Georgia at 2. I actually have Washington at 2. I bumped Washington up 4 spots from my ratings last week. I think that Washington and Oregon are 2 still very similar teams, but I'm going to be honest with you. 2 through 6 here, I have Michigan at 1, and then 2 through 6 are damn near interchangeable for me. Washington at 2, Georgia at 3, Penn State at 4, Ohio State at 5, Oregon at 6. And I think they're all, if I were to run it through an algorithm, that was my algorithm, I would have them all 2 through 6, I'd have them at less than a 1-point differential. I wouldn't know who to pick in any of these games if they played each other. I took Washington last week, but I said I could see ways Washington wins. I could see ways Oregon wins. And then it literally came down to that. A missed field goal was the difference. Look, if Penn State and Ohio State played right now, I'd say the exact same thing. Hey, I think there's a way Penn State wins. I think there's a way Ohio State wins. We're just going to watch and see what happens. If Georgia and Penn State played, I think there's a way Georgia wins. You see what I'm saying? All 2 through 6 are the same thing to me. So I don't know. I just have a group there. As far as I'm concerned, they're all tied for 2, but that's cowardly, so I went ahead and put numbers on it. At 7, I have Florida State. At 8, I have Oklahoma. I know people are going to be mad that I have Florida State as low as 7 when they're ranked 4 in the AP, but I don't think they're the 4th best team in the country right now. I think they're probably the 7th best team in the country, which is really high. There's 131 teams in the FBS. If you're the 7th best team, that's a damn good football team. So it's not. There's no disrespect here. I think they deserve to be 4th in the AP. I just think they're the 7th best team in the country. Oklahoma at 8, Notre Dame at 9, Texas at 10. So that's where I'm at. Do you have any qualms with my power ratings?
Any qualms? That's an interesting word choice, but not really. I mean, like you said, like the way you word it with 2 through 6, they're really just interchangeable teams. So, I mean, personally, right now, I would put Ohio State above Penn State if I were to pick one qualm to have with you.
So it's not Georgia.
They keep turning the ball over. I mean, I'm still like, yes, they're Georgia. They're always going to be up there. But they still kind of need to prove it. They need to stop turning the ball over. They need to win like against really good teams to prove that, yeah, we're still the number 1 team in the country. So, and if they played Washington right now, I agree. I think Washington would win. Same thing with Michigan. So I'm not mad at them at 3 at all, especially after what we saw out of Washington this weekend.
Washington has the best win in the country as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But what's crazy is you're 1 yard away from saying Oregon has the best one in the country as far as I'm concerned. So, like, again, interchangeable teams, and I'm not doing a ranking system. I think if I was ranking teams, I'd say Washington probably deserves to be 1, but I just don't think they're better than Michigan right now. And then 2 through 6, there's an argument that you could put 6 at 2, you can put 5 at 2. Like, they're interchangeable to me. So that's where I'm at. All right. You got anything else?
No, I'm good. What about you? You got anything else?
I think that's it, man. I think that's it for this one. It's been a long weekend, guys. Sorry if I struggled through this one. You know,
You had too many corn dogs.
we'll be in full effect for the preview show on Wednesday night. Go to SeatGeek. Use our code 10-second runoff. That's 10SECOND RUNOFF. Save $20 on your first purchase. Go get some tickets. Save yourself some money. See y'all on Wednesday.